This week on Fast Company's Most Innovative Companies podcast, I spoke with Alexis Ohanian and Midge Purce. And their latest venture? A women's soccer reality TV show. Midge hopes that shows like The Off-Season can help diversify what it looks like to be a woman, to be an athlete, and to be a woman who plays sports. Thanks for coming in, Alexis.
Thanks for having me, AJ.
Oh, we're so glad you're here.
I'm happy to be here.
I mean, you are, I believe, an investor in over 40 unicorns.
Yeah.
Do you have an estimate?
I've had a good track record so far, but I feel like just getting started.
Yeah.
I get my best years ahead of me. But yes, so far so good.
Coinbase, HubSpot, Instacart, you're also a major investor in women's sports.
I am.
What is it about the sector that is so appealing to you as an investor?
Look, I can't help but share my own experiences also as a founder, starting Reddit, coming back to it, turning it around. Like, Reddit is the ultimate community platform. People bond over stapling bread to trees.
Yeah. True.
And so what I loved about women's sports was the signal I got on social media from the diehard fans. And when I see that kind of strength in community, as well as, frankly, the haters, I get inspired and I lean in more because no one hates irrationally unless there is something they're challenged by, afraid of. Like, that only actually makes me more interested because you don't get haters unless there's a there. And it all started for me in the March of 2019. Women's World Cup was on deck, and I'd seen that Megan Rapinoe's team had just sold for a few $1 million. It was a professional team in Seattle. And it stunned me when I saw this headline, and I just started ranting because I was like, okay, $3 million. I was like, I don't follow women's soccer, but I know who Megan Rapinoe is.
Sure.
And I know that there's a big World Cup coming, and I know the American women are great. The American men, not so much.
Yeah.
American women, undeniably excellent. And Megan's worth at least that much to a brand in brand dollars every year. So how could a team sell for so little? And so I ranted and I basically said, this is the biggest investment opportunity I've ever seen, and like in terms of the obviousness. And I'm going to buy a team. I'm going to buy an NWSL team or start one. And sure enough, so many women's soccer fans piled in. This post goes viral, and so many of them say, don't talk about it, be about it.
Yeah.
Do it. And then there were plenty of haters, and I screenshotted all the tweets of the haters, and I saved those. Once we started, selling out stadiums and all that, I started posting them back and tagging the original haters for the inspiration.
Cataloging.
It was awesome. And Alex Morgan, to her credit, saw this thread and said, hey, I can help you with that. I met up with her probably a month later. She was playing in Orlando at the time. I just took notes, and I just asked her a bunch of dumb questions, and I decided, okay, I'm definitely doing this. Started talking to some owners. That eventually led me to the three women who were looking for someone to fund this idea: Kara, Julie, Natalie Portman, by the end of the year, and that led to Angel City. And so that was I like to say it was a emotionless, capitalist decision.
Sure.
Yes, obviously I'm married to the GOAT, Serena Williams, who is the living embodiment of the fact that you can make, if with investment, with equal pay, thanks Billie Jean King, with investment, the notion of women's tennis is as big, or I'd argue bigger in the United States than men's. Sure. Because it had all those things, and then it had excellence and living proof. And yes, I have now 2 daughters, but all of this investment in women's sports, whether it's been Angel City, whether it's been The Off-Season, whether it's been now most recently Athlos, this is unemotional business. Yes, I feel good about it, but I don't get it twisted. What I learned meeting those first set of owners back in 2019 in the NWSL was what has held the sports world back, the women's sports world back, has been this feeling, this notion of charity, has been this feeling of, well, golly, we should do something for them. Yeah. And that has ironically, even well-intentioned people, I think, held back so much of this development. So I only lean in to the soulless capitalist decision of why women's sports is a great investment.
Yeah. Tell me about The Off-Season. It's a new show that you've produced with Midge Purce that follows NWSL players during their off-season living in a house. Yes. What went into that production, and what have been some of the challenges?
Gosh, this has been the foundation of what I think will be a very, very special sports media and production company that Midge has started. The idea was simple: bring together, like you said, these 11 professional athletes, top of their game, they're already training together in an off season. They rent a really big house, they hire some chefs, some physios, and then they they bust their asses all day training, and then they're back at the house together. Some nights they go out, plenty nights they're staying in. But like, this is real in a way that the traditional sports docuseries like Drive to Survive has never been able to capture, because the guys can just take off their mic and end the interview. But it's also so intimate, and that's why we brought in the 32 Flavors folks who created Vanderpump Rules. These cameras are rolling 24/7, and we're not making up drama.
Yeah.
This is their actual lives, and sports is tumultuous and hectic. There's big personalities, very competitive people, and the end result is gripping. And so 6 episodes debuting on X, and I think it's going to create a new format for sports and for docuseries.
Hi, Midge. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
So excited about this. Talk to me about your relationship with Alexis Ohanian, how you guys connected, and how he became involved with the offseason.
Yeah, we connected through business. He was beta testing, or I guess I was beta testing some kind of app. But in conversations about the women's game and football in the United States, I think this is kind of how he approaches most of his businesses that are in spaces he's not an expert in. He asks a lot of questions. And in those conversations, obviously, the off season has came up, and we talked about the difficulties and the disadvantages in being a female athlete or an athlete in general, because the off season is a hard time for any athlete, men and women, to be quite honest. There's not really a set system or facility or environment for really, really high level athletes training to be at their best in any sport for men or women. And he recognized that this is a gap, this is a hole. At the same time, he recognized that in the United States, you have to be on the U.S. women's national team to be a star. It's something that I was really, really vocal about in my conversation with him. And it's part of the reason that we were talking about marketing and media. And then the idea to do a reality or unscripted show based on NWSL stars. I have a tweet from like years ago. And it was
not usually a good start of a sentence.
I do. I don't really say crazy things. But I had a tweet from years ago saying the real soccer players of like New Jersey would be the best show ever. And it was because in my locker room, I would just look around at the humans around me, and I would get to see the most incredible sports stories unfold right before my eyes, day in and day out. And no one knew about them. And no one was storytelling, and just people had no idea. And in having these conversations with Alexis, I was like, it's really crazy that no one's telling these stories, and no one's telling these stories in a way that women particularly want to hear.
Just like being the player, I think that makes me special.
Yeah. It's not fun anymore. I'm ready to retire.
Reality TV really does thrive off of mess and drama. But this is an interesting case in which so many of us who love women's sports kind of want to protect the role model reputation of women's athletes at best, but also just want to, not give them the kind of villainizing reality TV show treatment that some people might get. How did you think about walking that line of making sure there was still drama and tension and excitement without kind of veering into something that people might find unflattering?
I think the way I looked at it is I want to tackle the unflattering piece first, because I think that women in many industries, not even in the sports industry, have always been held to this higher standard where you do, and this is all of episode 4 that we're talking about right now, or maybe episode 3, where it's like men can go out and they can party and they can drink and they can show up on game day and do their job and no one questions a thing. But women, it's like, well, what did you do last night? Where were you? That's not appropriate. You shouldn't be doing that. And part of this was destigmatizing the lens with which we view female athletes, to view them as athletes and grown women, and not these type of exclusive role models that people so often feel female celebrities in any type of way, known women, need to be. So, I guess it's a bit against the grain when it comes to being flat. I think everyone looks great. So, I mean, we'd have to go on semantics with flattering and unflattering, but definitely wanted to show the human side, the relatable side to everyone. And that's why we get into a lot of topics. Like we talk about motherhood and when do you want to have a kid? We talk about body image. We have all of these moments that are really, really relatable and kind of break down and humanize all of the athletes in a way that I think has been debilitating to the progression of women's sports. I think a really big piece of entertainment is being able to relate to the content that you're looking at. And the longer we try to keep these, honestly, untrue and inauthentic versions of what a female athlete has to be every time, the worse off everything is.
Yeah. No, I think that's really interesting and can tell us a lot about women athletes in general. I think as the sector has kind of matured over the past, maybe 50 years since the passage of Title IX, there has been this idea that it was kind of a family-friendly, cheaper alternative to men's sports, right? And as it's tried to grow up and we see kind of either more physicality or maybe more edginess from players, there's been these kind of funny growing pains. Is that something you've noticed?
For sure. I think, something I really struggled with in my career and in the earlier days of my career is that in media, in my clubs, and just, common social rhetoric, my purpose was to inspire another little girl to do something that she wanted to. And I want to be clear that I think that is an amazing thing. I think it's an honor, and I really do consider it a privilege to have that kind of influence and impact on anyone's life. It's not why I'm playing soccer. It's not. And it's just so crazy how much we have almost coerced this narrative into all of the female athletes that this is why you're doing it. You're doing it for that little girl. And I'm like, no, I want to win. I like winning. I also, I'm just very competitive. It's something I'm good at. It's something I'm passionate about. And it doesn't have to be for aspirate, or my purpose doesn't have to be to inspire someone else to pursue I don't have to inspire someone else to pursue excellence for myself. And I think that is really important. So yeah, I do think we're getting away from that while still, holding the prioritization of inspiring the next generation as well, without making it the sole reason you're doing it.
You want a baby at the end of this year. You may get pregnant by the end of this year.
I have to decide, soon.
The other big narrative that I hear is this idea of something you said recently to Citrus Mag. When I hear about people who are investing in women's sports, they love it because it's this huge growth opportunity.
Yes.
I think one of the fears as someone who's really rooting for women's sports is what happens after the first insane spike, and then women's sports becomes a more mature business and it's kind of normal growth.
Yeah.
Do you currently still think we're in that big spike phase? And where do you think we are on the growth trajectory?
We are still, you're absolutely right about this. There is a hype cycle for all these things. We see them in tech aggressively, right? AI is in probably its hype trough right now as people realize the cost. They see the biggest players only sort of incrementally getting better than one another at tremendous cost. So similar growth and I think similar trajectory. We are still early, but we're definitely at maybe a third to half the way up the slope. We're still in that early part. And so yes, we should all prepare for some come down. And it's different though. It's not going to look, it's going to look a little different because we are talking about sports is still it's a zero-sum game. It is there's a scarce resource, right?
Yeah.
There's only one World Cup winner every 4 years. There's only one NWSL champion, only one WNBA champion every year. There's, if you missed Angel Reese last night, you can watch the match later, but that was a moment you had to be a part of. And so at the end of the day, women's sports is about telling these stories that do have a scarcity to them, unlike, widgets or Twinkies, right? So I think it will still be insulated a bit. It will be insulated a bit from the hype cycle.
Sure.
But what a great time it'll be when we have, and I think this will happen when we have leagues that have dozens of teams in the 20s, say the mid 20s probably is where there'll probably be this hangover. Everyone's like, oh my God, finally all these investment dollars have come in after being on the sidelines for literally decades. And everyone's like, okay, now we got to catch up.
Women athletes are often forced to kind of find financial support through, social media partnerships or brand partnerships or kind of side jobs during the off season. How do you think projects like the off season fit into the broader kind of financial ecosystem of opportunities for women in sport?
Side jobs aren't the problem.
Sure.
It's the type of side jobs. Athletes and female athletes having to go walk dogs or work at Orange Theory or tutor or do those things. Like, unless that is your life's passion, I don't feel that you should have to do that, though I respect your grind. And what I think with the offseason, this franchise is it gives you a side job. It gives you a stream of revenue that fits the position that you're in entertainment. Like, this is the type of side job you should be doing. This is something that not just builds your brand, but it shares your story. It contributes to the growth of the entire women's soccer universe and making sure that other people know what's going on in it in the proper way through the proper method. Because, you want to share your story, but you want to share it in an appropriate way on a great platform in a way that allows people to really resonate with you. And I really do think that this is what this franchise does.
Talk to me about the challenges of finding a streamer, because what you mentioned earlier is that you kind of wanted the final cut. You wanted that final say that this was your baby. Was that the main tension? What was the process of finding a streamer like?
Yeah. So, we talked to a bunch of networks, and it really was the final cut and the inability. It was so shocking to me that in 2024, I don't know what to call like the networks in general, but I guess like that media production side of the industry had such a false understanding of female athletes in 2024. Sure. And it was so scary to me in the conversations that I remember saying to Alexis, I said, I'm not going to do this if they have final cut. Like, I'm out. It's done. These are elite high-level athletes. This is a really, really critical time in their training period. At the end of my whole spiel, they said, well, we still need a reason for the women to be in the house together. And I was confused because I said, like I said, they're training in the off season. Like it's the best high-level training environment. They need to prepare for the season. And they said, no, they need a reason. And after a few moments, they said, how about they realize friendship is more important than sport? And that's the ticket. That's why they're in the house together. And I was gobsmacked. I had no idea I couldn't even respond because I just couldn't believe that here I am presenting you some of the most high-level elite athletes in the country. And you're telling me that to prepare for their professional season as professional athletes, their purpose for you to even want to film anything from this is that they need to figure out that friendship is greater than sport. It was unbelievable. It was so insulting. And I was just like, it's 2024. I thought we were so much farther than this. And so realizing that the vision for what I really had was not going to come true unless I had a direct hand in producing it, it was a scary revelation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you went on this kind of uncharted path. Talk to me how you ended up at X, and how do you kind of adjust your expectations or even like your media planning and marketing efforts now that it's going to be streaming on X rather than on a traditional network?
Yeah, adjusting is such an interesting word because I've never done it before. So
Sure.
I'm not really adjusting to anything new. This is all I know when it comes to a production standpoint. I think the biggest thing is that I'm really excited about the opportunity to create a community around something in a way that no one has ever done with long form content like this. So what I mean by that is I think about how young girls drop out of sport at a really, really young age. And we already know that that's really debilitating and hurtful to the rest of their progression in their lives. And I think about the lowest barrier to entry into a sport, and that would be watching it or seeing the players and knowing the players. And the idea that you don't need a subscription, you don't have to go find it, you don't have to go look for it. It's completely accessible to you. You can just click it. And now you know some of the top players in the NWSL. You see what they do in their training. You see how much fun they have in their interpersonal relationships and their competitiveness and their mindset. And you can break it down and see professional female athletes in a way that they have never been shown before, in a truly intimate way that has never been done before. And that might keep someone in sport. That might tell them, hey, look how cool they are. And I don't need to play at a really, really high level, but like, this is inspiring in a different way. This is aspirational in a different way. And it makes me more engaged with the sport. It makes me want to stay around it. So the idea of making it accessible to everyone so that people don't have to go look and find content was really, really huge to me. And the fact that everyone could talk about it in one central place directly under the content that I'm posting, so we could sincerely build a united community around something, that was really exciting to me, because I think that's something that the women's sports world in totality has missed.
Want to hear more? Looks like you're going to have to subscribe to Most Innovative Companies.